The show begins as we're introduced to a 27-year-old woman named Rinko. She works as a chief wedding planner at a prominent company and is quite good at her job. Rinko is beautiful, capable, and proficient in various skills, including cooking, music, sports, and other pursuits. Because of this, she's admired by her coworkers who consider her practically perfect. After one particular wedding event, Rinko is very proud of herself as she's put a lot of effort into planning this wedding. But instead of thanking her, the bride goes up to thank her coworker instead. The coworker is a guy named Jen, who is also 27 and joined the company on the same day as Rinko. However, he got promoted a bit earlier than her, which is why she doesn't like him much. Meanwhile, the rest of the company's females go gaga over Jen and consider him the man of their dreams. Later, Rinko notices a guy named Hiyama who works as a wedding photographer at her company. Turns out she's had a crush on him for a long time and finds herself staring at him. Hiyama notices her gaze, which causes Rinko to become nervous and shy away. Just then, another girl approaches Hiyama and attempts to flirt with him. He isn't interested, but the girl asserts that despite her innocent appearance, she has a lot of experience and can make him very happy. Hearing this, Rinko is distraught because she had never dated anyone and is still a virgin. She spent all of her life diligently focusing on her studies and work, leaving no time for a relationship. Rinko worries that if other people discover this, perfect girl image will be shattered. Furthermore, she's concerned that if she does eventually date someone, she will struggle to please him due to her lack of experience. In the evening, she goes out with her friends, and while the other two girls manage to get hooked up, Rinko is left alone. She soon comes across a guy and decides to give him a chance. However, after a brief exchange, the guy confesses that he's married, leaving her frustrated. Rinko then heads to the bar where she unexpectedly runs into Jen. While talking to him, a bartender named Kuji strikes up a conversation with her. Turns out the two men were childhood friends. Kuji reveals that despite Jen's current good looks, he used to be a nerd in school. He then shows her an unflattering picture of Rinko, which surprises her. Jen asks him to stop, but Kuji continues to share that when his friend was 17, he had feelings for a girl named Shio, but never confessed. Since then, he hasn't dated anyone and is still a virgin. Hearing this, Rinko is completely taken aback. She never expected her handsome coworker to be a virgin like her, but she also sees this as an opportunity and offers to help Jen lose his virginity. To her surprise, he agrees immediately. In the next scene, the two arrive at a hotel room, and Rinko pretends to be experienced in romance. However, he's more flirtatious than her and throws her onto the bed. He then begins undressing himself and gets close to Rinko. But at this moment, our heroine realizes that she's not ready to do this. She then shoves him away and reveals that she's a virgin as well. Jen responds that he already guessed it and isn't surprised at all. He suggests that the two of them just act as if tonight never happened. But Rinko isn't willing to give up and insists they try again. She explains that she isn't mentally prepared today, but believes it will work next time. They then agree to meet at the same location the following Tuesday at 8 p.m. Over the next few days, Rinko reads books on intimacy and also watches a lot of adult videos. On Tuesday, she arrives at the hotel to make love with Jen, but she once again begins to have cold feet. But Jen whispers into her ear, claiming she's not going to escape tonight. The two then grow closer and eventually make love. After they're done, Rinko is so shy that she covers her face, but Jen appears relaxed. The two then realize that one time isn't enough to become experienced lovers, so they decide to meet here every Tuesday for a lovemaking session. Rinko makes it clear that the relationship is purely physical and nothing more. Jen agrees, and they make a pact to keep sleeping with each other until they feel confident enough to sleep with other people. The following day at the office, Rinko is full of energy and she does everything with confidence. Even Hayama is smitten by her and compliments her, saying she looks very today. This makes her very happy, and the two engage in a brief conversation where they praise each other's work. Eventually, Hiyama asks for her number and invites her out for dinner. Rinko is thrilled to hear this, and she accepts in a heartbeat. Afterward, Rinko jumps for joy as she secured a date with her crush. Just then, Jen approaches her and asks why she looks so happy. She notices his crooked tie and tries to fix it, but he pins her against the wall, trying to kiss her. However, he quickly stops himself because he's agreed not to do such things in public. He then congratulates her on her date with Hiyama and leaves. The following morning, Rinko sorts through her clothes and wonders what she should wear for her big date. During this, she begins to imagine herself and Hiyama going on a romantic dinner that will end up in a hotel room. But she starts to worry when she realizes that she's not good enough in bed. Thus, after careful consideration, she decides to practice more with Jen and heads to his place. Upon seeing her, Jen asks what she's doing here since they're not supposed to meet today. Rinko explains that she needs more practice for her big date. She then heads to the bathroom and asks him to come as well. At first, Jen refuses, acting all tough, but when he notices her showering in the bathroom, he can't help himself and joins her. The two then end up making passionate love. The next day at work, a girl named Shiho arrives with her boyfriend for the wedding planning. They meet with Rinko and start discussing their wedding arrangements. During this exchange, our heroine notices that Shiho is excited, but her boyfriend doesn't seem to be interested in the relationship. In the evening, Rinko meets with Hiyama for her big date and they come across Jen and another coworker on the way. The coworker teases the two of them and asks if they're dating, but Hiyama clarifies that they're just friends. Meanwhile, our hero becomes very jealous to see them together and rudely tells them to enjoy their date. Afterward, Hiyama asks Rinko why Jen was behaving so strangely. He suspects that something is going on between them, but Rinko denies it. She claims that they're just colleagues and nothing more. Following this, the two go out for dinner and they end up having a great time. Once their date is over, Rinko gives them half the money they spent. Hiyama finds this gesture very sweet, and he gently corners her against the wall. He's about to kiss her, but Rinko continues to think about Jen during this time. Before anything happens, she suddenly stops him. Hiyama feels embarrassed, but Rinko explains that she doesn't want to do it because she's feeling a little tipsy. He understands, and the two call it a night. Following this, Rinko goes to Jen's house, where he's surprised to see her. She explains that the date didn't go well and admits that she just wanted to see him. Jen invites her inside and they start to cuddle while talking. Eventually, things become more intimate, and at that moment, Rinko realizes that she's fallen in love with him and doesn't want anyone else. After a while, Jen falls asleep and Rinko curiously begins going through his stuff. She soon comes across a graduation album where she finds a picture of Shiho. This is the same woman who had come into her office earlier today. Rinko then recalls how Kuji had told her about Jen's first love, Shiho, whom he was never able to forget. This makes her a bit upset, but then she realizes it doesn't matter because the woman's getting married anyway. The following morning, Rinko looks at a sleeping Jen and finds him very adorable. Later, the two get ready for work and he prepares a toothbrush for her. Our heroine finds this gesture very sweet because it means he wants her to come again in the future. This puts her in a very good mood, and she fantasizes about living with Jen. That afternoon, Shiho arrives at the company and informs Rinko that her boyfriend couldn't make it because he's busy. She has come to consult about wedding dresses, and Rinko helps her. Moments later, Jen shows up, and he's shocked to see her after 10 years. The two begin excitedly chatting, while Rinko looks at them in jealousy. Later, we see that a rivalry is brewing between Hiyama and Jen. Hiyama frankly expresses that he's interested in Rinko and claims he wants to pursue her. But our hero warns him that if he wants to play games, he must find someone else because Rinko is an innocent, sweet girl. In the evening, Rinko arrives at Kuji's bar and they start discussing Shiho. Kuji reveals that Jen used to like her very much and would do anything for her in high school, but she was never interested. He also praises her extraordinary beauty and kind personality. The more Rinko listens, the more she gets annoyed and the more she drinks. Moments later, Shiho and Jen also show up at the bar, which further annoys our heroine. Shiho jokingly claims that this is her last date before marriage and she wants to spend it with Jen. Unable to bear the sight any longer, Rinko leaves the bar with her friend. Later at home, she becomes preoccupied with what Shiho and Jen might be doing. She imagines them getting close and intimate, which upsets her. She then decides to check on Jen by calling him, but he doesn't answer, making her even more frustrated. The following evening, Rinko arrives at his house, and they cuddle while talking about their lives. She wants to ask him about Shiho, but doesn't dare do so. Jen then claims he wants to take her on a date and asks where she wants to go. Rinko suggests going to the zoo, and he agrees. As they talk more, Rinko completely forgets about her doubts and realizes she was worrying unnecessarily. The next day, she's in a great mood and is constantly thinking about Jen. However, her joy suddenly turns to sadness when Shiho tells her that she's canceling the wedding because she has no confidence in the marriage. She explains that her boyfriend doesn't seem ready, so she's unsure about their future together. Shiho thanks Rinko for her help and gives her a package to give to Jen. She then says how kind Jen was to her and he comforted her all night. Hearing this, Rinko feels bad, but she hands over the package to him anyway. Jen opens it and finds an expensive tie inside. This further devastates our girl, and she assumes something must have happened between them. Jen tries to explain the matter, but she angrily pushes him and walks away. Later, a dejected Rinko is sitting alone when Hiyama approaches her. He quickly figures out the situation and asks if she likes Jen. She responds with a yes, and this makes him feel very bad. Regardless, he comforts her. That evening, Rinko talks with her friend and tells her everything that's happened. She claims that she's in a dilemma and doesn't know what to do. In response, her friend says that they're adults and that playing games won't get them anywhere. So she advises Rinko to be straightforward and confess her feelings to Jen. Our heroine also thinks it's a good idea, so she heads to his house. Upon reaching there, she gathers the courage to confess to Jen, but their moment is unexpectedly interrupted by a sudden knock at the door. It turns out to be Shiho, who rushes in and hugs him tightly. Seeing this, Rinko is annoyed, and she also notices that Shiho has taken off her engagement ring. Unable to face the situation, she immediately runs out of the house. Jen tries to go after her, but Shio holds his hand and asks him to stay. She claims that she's facing trouble in her relationship and asks for his help. However, he doesn't care about her anymore and asserts that he's in love with Rinko. He then rushes out of the house to stop Rinko, but he soon sees her walking with Hiyama, which breaks his heart. Jen assumes that maybe Rinko was never interested in him and was only meeting him for... In the meantime, Hiyama seizes the opportunity and confesses his feelings to Rinko. He asks her to give him a chance and promises to make her happy. He claims that if she won't answer him by tomorrow, he will give up on her. Upon reaching home, Rinko begins to think about what it's like to date Hiyama and Jen. Although she wants to be with Jen, she assumes that he must be in love with Shio and decides not to pursue him. The next day, Rinko and Jen go on their planned zoo date. They spend a pleasant afternoon together and have a great time. At the end of the date, Jen tells her that he wants to take her somewhere special next time. However, Rinko responds that there will be no next date because she wishes to end their relationship. She explains that now that they're both independent and have learned so much, there's no point in meeting. Hearing this, Jen hugs her and refuses to let her go, but she pulls away and announces her decision to be with Hiyama. Afterward, Rinko also enters Hiyama, saying she's ready to date him. This makes him very happy, and the two officially start dating. Over the next few days, Rinko and Jen avoid each other at the office as much as they can, and only speak when needed. One evening, Shiho meets with Jen and claims that nothing is going well between her and her boyfriend. She reminds him that Rinko is also dating someone new, and asks Jen if they could be together. However, he rejects her advances, saying he's not interested in her. The following day at the office, the CEO asks Jen and Rinko to do a mock wedding for their next campaign. What's even more outrageous is that he asks Hiyama to be their photographer. Afterward, while Jen and Rinko are trying on wedding dresses, she almost falls, but he ends up catching her. Hiyama sees this from a distance and becomes very jealous. He then brings Rinko outside and asks her to back out of the mock wedding. However, she refuses, saying she can't go against her boss. A few days later, Rinko meets with Shio and notices that she's again wearing her engagement ring. The two then engage in conversation, and Shio clarifies that she's gotten back together with her boyfriend. In fact, it was Jen who helped her resolve her personal affairs. She then also reveals that Jen turned down her proposal because he only has eyes for Rinko. Hearing this, our girl is shocked, since she always assumed Jen didn't like her. Later, Hiyama approaches her and tries to kiss her, but he soon notices tears in her eyes. He realizes that she still has feelings for Jen and decides to let her go. He expresses that despite what happened, he doesn't regret confessing his feelings for her and wishes her luck. Days later, during the mock wedding, the two are holding hands when Rinko says that she has something she needs to tell him afterwards. This only makes Jen anxious as he believes she's going to marry Hiyama, so he takes the first step and pulls her away from the photo shoot. He then confesses his feelings for her and asks her to stay with him for the rest of their lives, not just a day or a week. In response, Rinko admits that she likes him as well and reveals that she ended her relationship with Hiyama. Jen is ecstatic to hear this and tries to kiss her, but a staff member interrupts their moment. In the final scene, the couple returns to the mock wedding and walks down the aisle together. They stand in front of the priest and exchange wedding rings, which makes them both emotional. Moments later, Jen pulls Rinko close and kisses her, leaving everyone in shock. With this beautiful moment, the show finally comes to an end.